question on the role of Southern Gas Corridor in European gas market. I'm very glad to tell you that we have this event now at Zoom, but you also can watch it on our Facebook page at the moment and also on our other pages in other social media. So let me present you our dear speakers who will join me for this incredible conversation. So at first we have Director of the Energy and Climate Program of Elcano Royal Institute from Spain, Mr. Gonzalo Escribano. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me to this discussion.
Thank you for joining us. Our next speaker today is the Energy Advisor at Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Cengizhan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you also for inviting me to this great discussion.
Thank you for joining us. Our third speaker is the CEO of ADASTRA think tank, Mr. Viktor Karvatskyy.
It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. And our fourth speaker is the Deputy Director at Eurasian Research Institute in Kazakhstan. I'm sorry if I'm mistaken, so you can correct me. Mr. Cengizhan Canaltay. Good afternoon, Mr. Cengizhan.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. Well, today we are going to discuss the influence of the Southern Gas Corridor on European gas imports share, its concurrence with EastMed, possibility of Central Asia gas imports via TANAP, and the possible use of gas corridor for hydrogen transit. So at first, we will talk about the general importance of that project for Europe and its positive and maybe some controversial sides. And later, we'll move to the specific questions directed to each of the speakers. So at first, let's start from the general question to all of the speakers. You can express your opinion on that one by one. So I will tell you who may take the floor. So basically, the question sounds like this. There are so many positive and at the same time negative feedbacks about this project and its importance for the European Union. So why is it important for European Union after all, in your opinion? So shall we start from Mr. Escribano? What is your opinion on that question?
Well, when referring to the Southern Gas Corridor, it will depend a lot of what do you include within it. I mean, we are speaking about the TANAP and the TAP and the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline and the Trans-Anatolian with, resources coming from Azerbaijan, from the Caspian. That sounds reasonable. It's already happening and it's fine. I mean, it's something that it makes sense, More ambitious extensions are more doubtful, in my opinion. I'm speaking from a Western Mediterranean perspective, so probably there are different preferences regarding our different regions and countries, but in my opinion, extending this corridor to Turkmenistan or other countries seems much more difficult, and you can find much more barriers in geoeconomic and geopolitical terms to advance there. So the Southern Gas Corridor has already been downgraded quite a lot from the initial aspirations. If you remember, it was going to go almost until Egypt or even Iran or whatever. So in a realistic perspective, I think it makes sense. The Southern Gas Corridor makes sense. But at the same time, as you said, there are a lot of pipelines going on. You got Nord Stream 2, you got the Turkish Stream, and at the same time, you got a lot of either capabilities and capacities in Europe, for instance, in Spain, where we have 7 LNG plants, they stay idle something like 15–20%. We got 2 pipelines that link us with Algeria, and they are idle 30–35%. So I mean, there is a lot of room for importing gas in Europe, you know, and not necessarily the more geopolitically complicated, the more expensive options should be prioritized in my opinion. But besides that, but I will stop there, but besides that, there is the question of how many pipelines, how many gas infrastructures do we really need in Europe if we want to be consistent with Paris Agreement and climate commitments. But that will be another question. I will stop here by the moment.
Thank you for your commentary. Mr. Can, do you have something to add to that question?
Yeah, firstly, today is a very sad day in the history of the world. 28 years ago today, hundreds of Azerbaijani citizens, including women and children, were massacred, wounded, or taken hostages by the troops of the Republic of Armenia during their attack on Hojali town in Azerbaijan's Nagorno-Karabakh region. So mercy of Allah upon those who lost their lives in this massacre. And I extend my condolences to our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters. Energy, you know, is the engine for economies, and Turkey's growing economy needed an increasing energy supply, just as the European countries. And natural gas was the answer then. And Turkish gas market became one of the fastest growing gas markets in the region. And until recent Sakarya discovery, Turkey didn't have any significant domestic natural gas reserves. However, Turkish gas infrastructure has rapidly developed over a very short period of time. And Turkey's geographic location gave her easy access to a very diversified range of gas sources from very diversified routes. And we regard Southern Gas Corridor as a part of this big picture and Turkey's efforts to diversify the sources and also the routes. It's a very remarkable example when Turkey imported natural gas in early 2000. Only a couple of countries imported natural gas. We imported natural gas, only a couple of countries. But last year, Turkey imported natural gas from 13 countries. So bringing in new sources of natural gas from various countries not only reduces Turkey's dependence on only a single supplier, but also brings competition for the region. So I think, as well as the increasing the natural gas supply security, Southern Gas Corridor will bring competition to region. So Turkey is the backbone of this important vision and project. So I'm very proud that recently we have top connection, and we see natural gas flowing through Turkey and also to Turkey and through Turkey to Greece. Thank you.
Thank you for the commentary. Mr. Karvatskyy,
Yeah.
maybe you will add something to the topic.
Yeah, so as far as I'm a judge, one need to remember that I'm sitting in Ukraine. So like Ukrainian perspective is closely related to the Russian influence on European gas market. Ukraine is the biggest transit country in Europe. Our gas transmission system is available to transit 146 BCM cubic per year. And we also have the greatest chain in Europe of underground gas storage. So we are like a transit giant playing on the European roads. But unfortunately, we are as powerful as I described to you, but Russian contract which we have on gas transit, it makes us transit only like 30% of our capabilities. and Ukraine is willing to do more. It can do more, and like with a Russian view to replace Ukraine by, for example, Nord Stream 2, and we know how hard does it goes. It's a big victory for Ukraine that the American Senate and American president support the sanction against the Nord Stream 2. So in this very context of some rivalry, geopolitical going on between Ukraine and Russia after Russia aggression and Crimea annexation, yeah, Ukraine starts to develop further its energy diplomacy. And to my point of view, so it's of my sole responsibility of these expressions, I support Ukraine adhesion to the TANAP, and I think I'm convinced that Southern Gas Corridor is one of the guarantee for the energy security of Europe, because one may not see the existence of monopolies in European gas market anymore, and it would never happen, because gas won't last forever. And during the last 10 years, one could see how powerful LNG exports are. States have become one of the major players on the European gas market. And we in Ukraine support this idea. We support the Southern Gas Corridor, and I think that the idea of Azerbaijan and the Turkey as a hub and Azerbaijan as a supplier, some of the countries which Ukraine have pretty good relations at the moment, is a big plus for Ukrainian foreign policy and for the security of Eastern Europe and for the Europe as a whole. So while we speak about Ukrainian perspective, I evaluate it through this lens. Ukraine has the possibility to join the Southern Gas Corridor via so-called Trans-Balkanic pipeline. So there's a pipeline coming from Turkey via Bulgaria, via Romania, via Moldova to Ukraine. And Ukraine is willing to give services of gas storage, as I said, of gas transmission, and this all. So we are working on the same page with our colleagues from Italy, from our colleagues from Turkey, from Azerbaijan, to make that Russia would never ever blackmail the Europe, you know, as it was in 2008, 2009, so-called gas wars, when one tap was blocked, Ukrainian transmission system was blocked due to the Russian foreign policy, and we had this system. So we, as like egoistic Ukrainians, support the idea of market becoming more competitive. And once we have such a project communicating the Azerbaijan, Turkey, Italy, and Greece, and possibly other countries, we support the idea. As I wanted also to add, Mr. Gonzalo said that it was like improbable that it would be some expert from Central Asia. I also support this idea. Maybe our colleague from Kazakhstan would disagree, but to my mind, it's high probability is very low that the Trans-Caspian pipeline could be ever constructed, because Turkmenistan looks more to China, and even Russia looks more to China. Whether this is the point, personally, I highly doubt of it. And given also the LNG situation, like LNG in Croatia, for example, perspective LNG in Bulgaria, and that's it. But Southern Gas Corridor is a must-have for the future European competitive market. This is what I can say to your first question. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I wanted to ask you about the Ukrainian, like the particular Ukrainian take on that project a bit later, but okay, we'll move on. Let's move on to Mr. Canaltay, and I will ask him a little bit of the different question that our other three speakers had, because he can provide us that important Central Asian perspective on that project. And already two of our speakers have mentioned the Central Asian vector of that project, which is possible or not. And let's find more out about it. Mr. Canaltay, can you tell us, please, what do you think about the possible extension of the project to Central Asian countries, and which arguments do you have for your position on that?
In case of Central Asian countries, as you know, Kazakhstan is mainly exporting oil and then natural gas. Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, they are the giants of natural gas. Therefore, especially on natural gas, China is one of their main, becoming a main consumer and client, because they come with the Chinese way of investment. They come with government money, they come with their own firms. They, in a short time, build their pipelines, and then they start moving their projects so fast. So when you compare this with others like Russian, even from Soviet times, or some European or Turkish-Russian joint projects, Chinese is a couple of steps ahead above all of this, because they say they will do first, let's say, as an example, a project in 2 years, they do it in 2 years. And their contracts, their agreements, low interest rates are much, let's say, attractive compared with other projects. But we also know that these three countries have the potential of so far supply both sides, the east and west. Therefore, they will be gladly accept if there will be more routes, so they could sell more of their natural resources. Where, for example, Kazakhstan's trade depends around 60% on oil exports. For Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, these figures for natural gas is much higher. But when we build these pipelines, for how long they will work? Because if we are talking about the next 10 years, there shouldn't be a problem. But if we are talking about next 30 years, then there will be problems, because at this rate, they cannot continue. Also, the first bilateral relations between Turkmenistan and China and Kazakhstan and China is totally different, because in Kazakhstan there is also a number of political issues also joined, because it's not purely economic or energy like Turkmenistan, due to different issues like Kazakhs living in the Xinjiang region of the China, which attracts some negative political attention to Kazakhstan's political agenda and media. Therefore, it affects all of these issues, including energy and economic relations. If we look from this perspective, European market is always, Turkish, Russian market is always better, less problematic one. But Chinese offers in terms of pure energy considerations are better than the European alternatives. If I don't know if I could answer your question, but
Well, thank you for that perspective, Mr. Canaltay. Let's move on. And I have the next set of the questions to all of the speakers. I will start with Mr. Escribano. So we've already discussed the importance of that project to the countries that participate in it, and for European Union, and even for the Central Asian countries. But there are some things that may make this project look controversial for some people, and let's bust all the myths that we may have on that particular initiative. We'll start from the first one. There are talks that European Union has to decrease the amount of the gas emissions into the atmosphere and the amount of gas used actually in its actions. And because of that, some people are very skeptical about the Southern Gas Corridor project. Mr. Escribano, what can you say about this? Are these things related, really, or they don't have any link, in your opinion?
I think they are directly linked. I mean, if we want to be compatible and we want to respect the European Union commitments to the Paris Treaty, that means that by 2030, we won't be able to increase significantly our consumption or demand of natural gas, even decreasing coal and others. So, I mean, there will be a kind of flat demand, kind of not a peak, but a, kind of plateau, for European demand of gas over the next decades. And by 2050, Europe has to become carbon neutral. And it's not only this objective that is leaving less space, less room for gas in the European energy market, but it's also other barriers, economic barriers that are going to be established. For instance, the European Investment Bank is not going to be able to finance any fossil infrastructure in the future. That's one. Secondly, we are currently studying in the European Union what is called the financial taxonomy, by which some fossil infrastructures won't be qualifying as do not being harmful for the environment, and then won't qualify for having a special treatment. On the contrary, that will pose significant barriers. Furthermore, if you want to what else? Border carbon adjustment. I mean, we are going to have probably by 2023 a border carbon adjustment. And this border carbon adjustment will apply to electricity imports, also to the chemical sector, and this is important. And also it will apply to those countries that don't have any carbon pricing mechanism. And when we look at the Southern Gas Corridor, when it goes, where are the sources? And even transit countries, I mean, there are no carbon pricing mechanism in place. In Ukraine, you got some idea to put in place some kind of ETS. In Turkey, they are considering also to introduce carbon pricing mechanisms. But all these carbon geopolitics, climate geopolitics are going to play increasingly importantly over the next years and decades. And in my opinion, it is important and I know I came from a country where renewables is a big thing, and we got the resources and all that. I know that there are other countries in Eastern Europe where carbon emissions are much higher, where it's not that easy to diversify away from fossil fuels, where dependencies are much more, significant. But in any case, I think everywhere in Europe and in the European vicinity, you have to start thinking, what are the geopolitical implications of this energy transition? And this is not being precisely a huge driver for import of gas and new import infrastructures. That would be my point on that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to Mr. John. I have the next question for him. There were some controversies based on the issue of human rights protection and other stuff in Azerbaijan, and some skeptics of the project point out that this particular project will help and promote to strengthen that neglecting of all these controversies. What do you have to say to all these skeptical people to combat all these rumors and such opinions?
Thank you. Well, as for the very quick remark for your first question that you directed to Mr. Gonzalo, well, I think people should be concerned more about other pipeline projects that are still on paper. Southern Gas Corridor is a reality and completed. It's done. Therefore, it is a $45 billion of value chain starting in Azerbaijan and right now ending in Italy. So it's done. So I totally agree with Mr. Gonzalo's statements and ideas about the future of gas in Europe in terms of the new Green Deal perspective. But pipeline projects are planned and they are planned and realized for long-term perspectives. And this Southern Gas Corridor has been drafted, has been planned, and has been realized with the cooperation of Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, Greece, Italy, and with the other stakeholders like BP and the Shah Deniz Phase 2 and Phase 1 shareholders, with many international gas companies. Southern Gas Corridor will bring competition. It is the first thing that I tried to underline, and competition is the key in this area. It's already a key concept today, and we have another important milestone. Hopefully, at the end of this year, we will have Istanbul Energy Exchange natural gas price indexation for future. So with this EPH, Turkey aims at creating a natural gas trading hub in Istanbul, and the development of hubs is sometimes quoted as a prerequisite for the development of competition. And with the help of a new diverse routes for Turkey and also for Europe, this important concept, competition, will be another asset that Turkey will introduce to Turkish regional and also global energy arena, because the International Energy Agency defines energy security as the uninterrupted availability of energy sources at an affordable price. And Turkey and our dear friend Azerbaijan has been a key contributor to the regional and European energy security in terms of uninterrupted availability of gas sources. Now, with this new concept, Energy Exchange Istanbul, operated by EPH, based in Istanbul, Turkey will enhance its role in the regional and European energy security, this time with ensuring affordability of energy gas sources. And Energy Exchange Istanbul and Istanbul benchmark price, hopefully, for natural gas trading will play a critical role for energy price security in the region, particularly for the Eastern and Southern Eastern Europe, including Ukraine. Our dear friend is with us, and this part, the Southern and Eastern European region, is unfortunately less connected with the rest of the European trading hubs. Therefore, Turkey will assume a new critical role in this new perspective, where competition will be more important than ever. With the introduction, of course, liquefied natural gas to tsunami coming from United States. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. I have a question for Mr. Karvatskyy. You mentioned that the Southern Gas Corridor Initiative is a path and a key for the Ukrainian energy independence. But the point is that some skeptics for this theory point out that some of the major key points and like facilities in Azerbaijan, for example, are controlled by the Russian company Lukoil, that is directly linked with the Russian government. How do you think, is it different than in the case of other pipeline projects that undermine Ukrainian energetic independence, or there's nothing to worry about and it's not a big deal?
Yes, thanks for the question, Arthur. I'll answer to it, but firstly, I would like to add a little remark to what Mr. Gonzalo has said. So, like you mentioned, the effort of Ukraine to build the ETS. So I am the author of the report on ETS building in Ukraine. I know how it takes, and I know how the gas is intervened into the emission trading scheme. So please, I will allow myself a little comment after about the whole ecological transit, about the hydrogen use, and maybe we could proceed in that direction. But coming back to your question, you know that not only Lukoil is found in southern Kazakhstan, you know, also we have some, for example, Petronas from our like Malaysian colleagues, we have BP, we have like some other major companies found in like different parts of the top of the TANAP. So we have southern Kazakhstan, it's a big project, yeah. And the fact that in the Shah Deni 2, so the gas field, Lukoil controls 10 or 15% of the property, it's mean nothing to us, because they are playing there in Shah Deni in southern Kazakhstan as a private company. In the case of the North Stream 2, they are playing as a global power trying to influence the market. So this like 10 or 15% share doesn't mean anything for Ukraine. And not to speak that since the occupation of Crimea, Ukraine has ceased its import from Russia, but we have virtual reverse. So we buy gas from Slovakia, we buy gas from Visegrad, but it's gas, it's Russian. So how does it work? Yeah, we have a pipeline. It's a virtual stuff. It's like a very smart idea of Ukrainians. You know, we say that we are giving 8, like for example, a million cubic meters to Poland. We give 6 to Poland and 2 take by ourselves. And in the contract, we state that 2 million BCM it was given to Ukraine. It's not Russian, it's reverted Polish gas. So I don't see the point here, because it's taken, it's Ukrainian reality. We will be energy independent, like for 100%. We will have, when we will have enough renewables to generate energy in Ukraine, from solar system, from wind system, from hydrogen, electrolysis stuff, etc., etc., etc. But the fact that Lukoil is somehow linked to Southern Kazakhstan doesn't mean anything, because for Ukraine, it's a dire need to ensure energy imports. We don't have enough gas. We are not in a position to develop the Black Sea shore as much as we would like. But we have a huge gas transmission system, we have huge underground storage facilities, and we have the possibility to import the gas. We have reached the agreement with the Moldova and with the Romania on interconnectors with the transmission system operators, and it's possible. We will also walk into this direction to import gas from Poland, so like American LNG, which can come to Latvia, to Poland, to the floating gas regasification. For example, we have it in the Gulf of Gdansk, and we are working on some interconnectors in that way. Yeah. But Southern Kazakhstan is, first of all, our guarantee of Ukrainian and European energy security, and the second one, which I would like to emphasize it now, it's our ability to become the new transit there. So, you know, previously we were transiting gas from Russia to Europe, so it was like going from east to west. And now we have some chances with some interconnectors to be built with Poland, to be built with Visegrad, to be the transitor from this gas coming from the southern Kazakhstan, from the gas coming from Poland via LNG imports, and so it's our chance to hold the transition state status when it comes to gas. And so a little remark, one should know that gas, it's not only like that the pipeline can only generate gas. I would like to come up this point so that we have making some like clinical stuff with our gas transmission system to see either it is possible to transport hydrogen with gas, all to gas. And while it may be possible at some point in Ukraine, it could be as well as possible at some point in the southern Kazakhstan. So it's like the fuel of tomorrow, because gas will stay for the 10 years. So we already had the peak of oil in 2014, I guess. I highly doubt that oil will ever come back to the level of 2013. Now we are living in this paradigm that gas is like some fuel which is our provider from coal to oil to renewables. And the use of gas with hydrogen in different proportion is also a guarantee that the European Green Deal with the CBAM, with extra taxes, won't be as much impactful as we could envisage it without the hydrogen. Thanks for that.
Thank you for your answer. I have a little question to Mr. Canaltay. We are coming back to Asia. So you've mentioned that the Chinese projects seem to be better for Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries. But the point is that the experts in the field mentioned that the Chinese infrastructure project, especially in the gas field, can become truly the loan mine for these countries and put them into the huge debts. So do you take this point into the consideration, and do you support that school of thought, and do you think that it's really a threat to the Central Asian gas system, and there are no alternatives to the actual Chinese projects?
About Chinese projects, the recent literature, we see a lot of this debt trap for Chinese projects. We can see this clearly in Central Asia and Kyrgyzstan, because there are a number of projects going on there, and Kyrgyzstan debt to China and their Asian bank is almost 70% of the GDP or something like that in total. So that's a huge number. But when we take the Kazakhstan in case, it's a different scenario, because Kyrgyzstan's annual GDP is around 6 billion. Kazakhstan is more than 180 billion. So those projects in Kazakhstan, probably due to economic scale, does not create a significant threat. But for countries with small economies like Kyrgyzstan, it will be, and it's becoming. For that, I truly believe and also support the idea that some of the projects China mentioned or provide or put on the table works in both directions. It helps them to build the infrastructure, but in long term, it also comes with a debt trap potential. It's more or less related with the country's economic scale. Other than that, they on paper look efficient, but they also, the problem is when they come with everything. They bring their own products, their own workers, and their own firms. So in order to avoid these, countries also implementing certain rules, like Kazakhstan has this certain amount of the investment or certain amount of the usage product needs to be bought from local buyers, and some local firms needs to be initiated. Kyrgyzstan only just started doing that after all these internal debates about this potential debt threat.
Thank you for the answer. Let's move to the last block of our discussion. I will ask you the set of the questions, and later we'll move on to one group question at the final of our discussion. So at first, I will move to Mr. Escribano. So basically, we've mentioned it before in some of our responses earlier, and now it's time to elaborate on that topic. Mr. Karvatskyy mentioned the possible use of that gas corridor for hydrogen transit. Do you think that it's really possible, and which implications does it have for the whole technical stuff that's involved in actually making it real?
That's a difficult question because there is a lot of talk lately about hydrogen, and the appeal of hydrogen is that it is so similar to fossils, I mean, the geopolitics seems so similar that all the pundits that have been working, including myself, working on oil and gas geopolitics for decades, now we find kind of lifeline, to continue applying what, in my opinion, are mostly obsolete framings, for this new transition era. I really think so, yeah, I mean, hydrogen is very relevant. For instance, when you see the European hydrogen strategy, Ukraine is explicitly named, Morocco too, I mean, other neighboring countries. Also, Turkey has a lot of opportunities, I mean, resources, and there's a lot of potential. But there are also, I mean, these act as very significant drivers for the building of a pan-Euro, Asian, Mediterranean, whatever you want to name it, Mediterranean or Eurasian or whatever, hydrogen market. But barriers are also highly significant there. I mean, hydrogen is not that efficient because when you have to use an electrolyzer, I mean, it's much less efficient to produce hydrogen than directly using photovoltaics or wind energy to generate electricity. With this, you lost a lot of efficiency. That's number one. Number two, which kind of hydrogen? Are we talking green hydrogen or are we talking blue hydrogen? Or, the countries, you also may think of pink hydrogen. Where this hydrogen is going to be decarbonized. The Russian, for instance, they say to the Germans, hey guys, I send you my gas and you decarbonize yourself. Difficult thing to do, And then you enter in all these nitty-gritty things that you were mentioning, Viktor, before, about what is your carbon price, what is the carbon border adjustment, do you comply with the standards, blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to be that easy to transit from natural gas to hydrogen like this. There are several risks about fragmenting markets, about the standards, about regulation, about infrastructures. So I got my doubts on that. I mean, and there is a lot of literature and there is a lot of uncertainties regarding the future of hydrogen. But one thing we already know, and is that in the long run, I mean, over 2030 or from 2030 on, it seems that green hydrogen will be able to outcompete either blue or green hydrogen. And this is a significant change. And this is also related because, I mean, how do we want to govern this energy transition? I mean, do we want to replicate the mistakes we did? I mean, in general, in global governance for oil, with the OPEC, with gas, with very, rigid markets, with very extreme polarized models. You can get, very rigid gas contracts from Russia and very liquid and very flexible from the States. But my friend, if you want to buy LNG today, with Texas as it is today, and as today are Asian markets, hi, my friend, freedom gas will become very expensive. As today. And Spain has suffered for that in January. I mean, we have to recur to Algeria in very difficult situation in order to avoid a blackout in the country. So beware of LNG. It's important, it's part of the story, for sure. But there is high risk of volatility, and you got a cargo coming to Spain, and 24 hours before arriving to the LNG plant, it goes back and it goes to Asia because prices are triple factor. So beware and take into account all the complexities of gas. And for hydrogen, it will be even more complex, more expensive to transport. And then you will get which hydrogen are we talking about. Are we talking blue or green? Then you got the same problems about, both the carbon adjustment, pricing, carbon pricing mechanisms, and so on and so forth. If we're speaking green hydrogen, then you got the problems of certificates of origin. How do you build this market? And this will be a market. This is something that we already know. The international hydrogen market will be much smaller than current oil and gas fossil markets, much smaller for many technical and economic reasons. So I agree that hydrogen is important. And in fact, there is the prospects for importing and repurposing the southern gas corridor to hydrogen, for instance, from Turkey. But would we need green hydrogen from Azerbaijan or for Turkmenistan? I mean, Turkey will be a much cheaper option for that. So the complexities of the hydrogen geopolitics is not as easy as saying, here we got the gas market and then we apply this template to hydrogen. This is wrong, and it will lead to several strategic mistakes, in my opinion.
Thank you for your answer. Let's move to Mr. Can, and my question to him will be quite short. We've mentioned it in our today's agenda, so it's time to hear your take on the EastMed project. So what do you think about it? Is it good or is it bad? Which implications does it have? Please share your opinion on that.
Sure, thank you. As we underlined, diversification is always good. It brings competition and it brings flexibility. And we have the biggest market, Turkey, in the region in terms of natural gas. And from this point of view, I already underlined in the first part of my speech, we have Southern Gas Corridor, a great asset of $45 billion value chain with numerous regional cooperation stakeholders, and it's already there. So we completed this, and the flow of gas started. And therefore, with the second part of the discussion, hydrogen, and we have Green Deal, and we have recent statements from European Union and European Council's high-level authorities saying that oil and gas futures, oil and gas new projects or new opportunities or new windows have been closed. Therefore, there are some realities in this picture. We have Southern Gas Corridor, we have Turkey, we have two interconnections with Greece and Bulgaria, and this is already a fact. And we have another fact, Green Deal, which will, as Mr. Gonzalo underlined, which will have a huge impact on natural gas demand in Europe. And therefore, diversification, yes, but the technical and economical realities on the table should be taken into consideration for new projects, pipeline projects, new expensive pipeline projects. Therefore, I think the stakeholders and European stakeholders and European policymakers will take all these factors into consideration when planning or when realizing new projects that will bring extra new natural gas to Europe. Yeah, that's all I can say. And I also see there is a big confusion in Europe in terms of taxonomy of hydrogen. So this is incredibly huge. So the European Union or the European stakeholders cannot decide which hydrogen will they use, in what amount, what sector. Therefore, there's a big confusion. So in this big mess, you can't, I can't imagine that you bring another confusion in this discussion. So we have already Turkey, we have already two great interconnections. Turkey has, as I said, two interconnections with two European Union members, Greece and Bulgaria, that can pump natural gas from Turkey, and it's a very unknown fact that Turkey has been meeting natural gas demand of Greece since 2007, and at some points 1/3 of Greek domestic natural gas demand met thanks to Turkey and Turkish Greek interconnection, because we pump Azerbaijani natural gas and we resale it to Greece. It is a very trivial amount for Turkey. It's around 1 BCM, almost 1 BCM, which is Turkey consumes like around 50 BCM per year. So we pump only 1 BCM to Greece, but it is almost 1/3 of Greek natural gas demand. So Turkey is the biggest market, biggest natural gas player in the region. And I think all those developments in the region, the Black Sea, Middle East, we are going to have some new players, key players in natural gas. Also Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean. They will take into account these facts, these economical and technical facts. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Mr. Karvatskyy, I throw the floor to you. Well, the question for you sounds like that. You've already mentioned that the Ukrainian situation on the energy market is quite difficult because of some political and other kinds of implications and circumstances. But finally, for its further success, Ukraine has to develop the good alternative and a good framework for the future energy policy. What do you think are the main elements of this future policy that have to be included into that framework?
Thanks, Arthur, for the question, but you are asking me a huge question, you know, like I may speak about coal, oil, gas, hydrogen, renewables, and have a mind.
Let's focus on gas policy.
Yeah, I understand your point here. So as a gas point, as I said, I will like further reiterate on this topic. So I see the gas being the primary fuel for Ukrainian gas generation, for Ukrainian energy generation mix in years to come. Because we have some voices in Ukraine saying, okay, why should one care about the gas transmission system? We have European Green Deal. Let's build 1 billion of renewable generation station and like say no to Russia and forget about this. But it simply doesn't work like this. Because if we see Ukrainian generation mix, we see that like renewables are accountable only for 8%, and they have grown for 1.5% to 8% within 2 last years. We have much problem with debts, paying for the renewable energy sector, and we have like the also stuff. Yeah, and so renewables and so on. So like, unfortunately, they can't make us as geopolitical strong as we may. So Mr. Gonzalo mentioned the climate geopolitics, you know, yeah, we are partly country of European hydrogen strategy, yeah, but how could we compete with Morocco, that Morocco could build, has built a strongest of the biggest solar plant and may export the stuff via to Spain, for example, yeah. What we have always talks about pan-Arab European electricity market and the stuff they can generate in Tunisia, in Morocco, and transmit it further to Spain or to Italy, yeah. How can we compete in Ukraine with such much amount of generated like electricity in the long run? So in the short run, we may still like export the stuff to Visegrad, it's possible, but it doesn't seem to me as an alternative to become a big player. And coming back to gas, gas, it's our like chance to remain the big player, because no one has such a gas transmission system of BCM. So Mr. Jung mentioned the one BCM coming to Greece. We have 146, you know, and we have 30 underground storage facilities. So Turkey has too much gas for a year, and we can store it, and we can store like anybody else's gas. So our key point in geopolitics, while we have such a like a friendly country as Russia with us, trying to have the energy voice, as gas is essential, and it can be get in the different ways. So interconnected, as I mentioned, from different countries, from Visegrad, from Poland, from Baltic states. Luckily, they built in the LNG plants. Luckily, they have gas regasification unit in the Gulf of Thames. We are lucky to have the possibility to join the South Gas Corridor. And one have also some talks about the idea, one speaks about it during the last 10 years, to construct the LNG in Ukraine, in the south of Ukraine. So one speaks, but it remains like not as realistic as it is, but the chances of Ukraine to join the South Gas Corridor are high, and that's why, as I make the closing remark, despite that one may claim, so in my point of view, gas geopolitics and gas leverage gives us a possibility to have added value for Europeans, for European Eastern market, for Europeans as a whole. So because Ukraine has the primordial goal to remain powerful, to remain needed for European Union. And when it comes to gas transit, to gas transmission system, to underground storage facilities, we are needed. That's why I think that we should do it in the following way. In the future, I don't know how much hydrogen can be used. So we don't only have green and blue, we have brown, pink, red, yellow, white hydrogen. We have a spectrum of this hydrogen can be generating from different sources. How one would work it out, one will see. We don't have still a hydrogen strategy presented by our Ministry for Energy, but we have gas, we have gas transmission system, and it is a stuff that we should concentrate in the years to come.
Thank you. Let's move to Mr. Canaltay. There's a topic of hydrogen transit flowing in our conversation lately. And I will ask you the question related to that topic also, because recently Kazakhstan declared its intentions for decarbonization. And in that context, please evaluate the chances of how real is the hydrogen transit for the countries of Central Asia region.
Well, when you talk about the hydrogen and carbon emission and those tariffs, prior to one of the conversations, I was checking what's in the Kazakhstan, because since I'm not an expert in Asian energy field, so there might be some gaps while I'm checking through the internet. I see that Kazakhstan has many attempts, many laws and legislations that are being created in 2011 and initiated in 2013. But when you look at their actual practical use, we don't hear much about it. It's in Kazakhstan, mainly in Central Asia, it's that you can surely find a law or legislation that has been passed and put in implementation, but the real playing factor is how practical it is and whether it's working correctly. Despite all the financial or budgetary or bureaucracy, it's like the political will. If there's no political will to implement it, many projects could exist on paper. So it's said from this general perspective, when we look at it, for example, renewable energy in Kazakhstan also becoming like a new thing, since Kazakhstan has like the big, massive gray power, industrial lobby exists, but there's a political will to develop the renewable energy sector. So there is something going on. Although their first laws and implementation started in 2009. So between 2009, 2018, nothing happened. But since after 2018, political will decided to support it, then many solar panels and wind turbines are started to be built, and we are seeing some positive developments in Kazakhstan. In Uzbekistan, same situation with the new president, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. There is the movements, but only in the paper also, and their initiations go slowly. Others probably not even there. Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan. From this general perspective, I can say the potential is there if the political will is there. And the same goes for the limitation. If there is no actual willingness to support these initiations from the top of the government, then probably they will stay on the paper.
Well, thank you. So let's move to the final but very broad question to all of the speakers, and you will answer to it one by one, and it will be our way to make some conclusions based on our today's discussion. So my question is simple. Why is the Southern Gas Corridor project better than its competitors in the region or in the field in general? You can express the main advantages of this project to our audience, taking into the consideration everything said today. So, Mr. Escribano, you may start with your response.
Thank you. Let me first try to answer, or not to answer, but to comment on something that Viktor has said. I fully understand, Viktor, the Ukraine situation. I fully understand that a country who has played a great role in gas geopolitics want to continue to keep that role. And I fully agree with you also that gas will continue to be important for Ukraine for decades, probably. I fully agree with you on that. But unfortunately, I mean, I feel you a bit frustrated by the twin facts that gas is in decline, but the fact that, yes, it's true. I mean, in the Mediterranean, we have more sun, and there are many reasons to be frustrated for that, not only energy reasons, but that's the realities. And what we see from techno-economic analysis is from 2030 on, green hydrogen makes sense more than any others. And when you say that there are all the shades of colors, yes, but not all are treated equally. If you look at the European Energy Union hydrogen strategy, this is a green hydrogen strategy considering blue in a transitional basis, quoting, you know? So anything you got something that is transitional, gas is transitional, blue hydrogen is transitional, it means one day it will come to an end. So does it mean that Europe has to completely forget about the Ukrainian preferences? Not at all. Does it mean that Europe does not have to support Ukraine in his harmful stance, Russian stance against your country? Not at all. It's not that I'm saying. The only thing I'm posing is that the limits to the Southern gas corridors are climate limits embedded in current existing European Union energy and climate policy, and these are barriers very seriously rooted in the set of drivers of barriers for hydrogen in the Mediterranean. So that were my points, you know. So now regarding the Southern gas corridor, I think there are big opportunities. I fully agree with what you say, that it gives more competition, that it's good for everything. I mean, sure, I agree with all that. My only point is there are limits to the extension of the gas southern corridor. I mean, no to Turkmenistan, no to the Eastern Mediterranean, no to Iran, no to, all these are pipe dreams. It's not pipe MERS, you know, because there are no, the economics fundamentals are not there. As our Turkish friend said, I totally agree with you that it makes no economic sense to send gas with an offshore pipeline over 7 billion euros worth. It makes no sense. It should have gone through Turkey. This is the economically viable route, but it's impossible for geopolitical reasons. Too bad. Exactly as with the weather in Ukraine and the Mediterranean. These are facts that we have to face, you know. So yes, for the Southern Mediterranean gas corridor, as you said, as it is now, you got the TANAP, you got the TAP, you got the Azeri gas, but huge extensions on that, new infrastructures following that route, or new additions to this Nabucco utopia? I don't really see that. Does it mean that there are no other opportunities at that hydrogen or gas or blue hydrogen or whatever can be used as a narrative, offering a lifeline to countries, transit countries or producing countries regarding gas? I agree, but the window of opportunity is quite narrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. John. The same question to you. So basically, I know that you mentioned it before in our conversations for so many times, but let's finalize it. Why is the Southern Gas Corridor project better than its competitors?
Well, energy markets are changing, and gas markets are changing incredibly. We have a different world in terms of gas trading compared to 2 decades ago. And competition is the key. And maybe in the world history, competition in natural gas markets have not been so harsh like today. And in the next decade, it's going to be more competitive. From this perspective, the regional, and it's a milestone for the regional gas markets, the establishment of Energy Stock Exchange, EPH, in Istanbul. It's a key development for both the power and natural gas markets. Since 2015, in Turkey, EPH has been carrying out its operations to improve efficiency and transparency in the natural gas market. In 2017, EPH initiated the organized wholesale natural gas market. It is the first such market in Turkey and in the region, and trading started on September 1st, 2018, with EPH offering gas market participants the opportunity to trade in daily, intraday, and day-ahead markets. And this platform enables spot market transactions in natural gas, balancing transactions, and reconciling of imbalances, which is of great importance in line with Turkey's ambition of becoming a gas trading center in the region, and will enable the country, Turkey, to have a strong and effective role in the pricing of natural gas. And Turkey would more strongly contribute to the region by enabling the natural gas trading activities to be performed in an equal and transparent manner. Southern Gas Corridor and the flow of gas will be an asset for this big ambition and for this big plan. The goal for the organized trading natural gas platform in Turkey is to become a more liquid platform for day ahead and intraday gas trading with reference market prices. And hopefully, at the end of this year, we will have a natural gas future market in Turkey, which will serve a broader region, Black Sea, Middle East, Eastern European, and a Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean region. There is not any other market trading mechanism for natural gas in this entire region. So with this new perspective, Turkey will hopefully contribute more to the energy security with its traditional role in the flow of uninterrupted gas and the trading of natural gas with transparent and affordable prices. So we will simply make this connection of the definition underlined by the International Energy Agency for energy security. So we will simply, hopefully, increase the visibility of Turkey's efforts, increasing natural gas security in terms of flow and in terms of price for the entire region. And Ukraine is a great asset, as my friend underlined, with its huge infrastructure, and we have good relations. And Ukraine and Turkey are the two biggest key natural gas players in this big picture in the region. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Mr. Karvatskyy. Let us hear your take on that question.
So I agree with Mr. Gonzalo, with Mr. Zhang, with Mr. Cengizhan as well. So like, I want to say some key points of how to evaluate the role. So first of all, about what Mr. Gonzalo has said. So like, I may feel a little bit pity about some gas geopolitics, but not as such to be dissatisfied. Yeah. So I think so. The South Gas Corridor. I always say this rhetoric is about the American sanctions. So while we Ukraine speaking about Nord Stream, I said American sanctions have saved us time. So they haven't saved our status, they haven't saved our future, they haven't saved our geopolitical influence or whatsoever. No, they are like they have their own interest and we have our own interest. Yeah, they have saved us time. And I think this can also be like approach while we think about the Southern Gas Corridor. So Southern Gas Corridor saves time for this like needed time till the decarbonization, the total decarbonization. Why time? Because it says time that the more there are competitors, the gas prices are going lower. And they're interlinked also with oil prices, I mean, in such a way. So more competition, it's much better. It's much better not for Ukraine, but it's much for the market. So we have LNG coming from different places, yeah, different LNG terminals. Spain has 7 LNG terminals as far as I can envision. So 7, and it's working also on some 2 more, I guess, on the Canal Islands, if I am not mistaken. No Canal Islands, okay, but Spain has enough LNG terminals. So like we have LNG terminals in Croatia, we have LNG terminals in the Baltics, and the tenders even already start. Yeah, and we have like major players like states, like Qatar. We have also like Algeria being in place in the Mediterranean and so on. So, and along with it, so Southern Gas Corridor gives time for the market, so to see the different reality and times to understand. So it won't last forever. So because it's an irreversible truth. As I said, as Artur mentioned, so Kazakhstan has decided to go green. It's not because of a good life. No, it's because of the CBM, because of the new Green Deal, because of the financial mechanism, like mentioned in Kyoto Protocol, because of all the stuff of the economics forcing to go green. And that's why like it won't last forever, but at least for now, it's a guarantee for a new competitors entering the market, for getting new possibilities for the Italy, for the Balkans. I also don't believe in Nabucco, so like that Austria would somehow get the gas, but for this very part of the Eastern Mediterranean, it's a good stuff because it helps for the countries to see the advantage. It gives time and some possibilities for countries to feel like more freely in this market. And this is why it's a good thing. And more importantly, there are lots of good things, and there were lots of good things, but this is a good thing which is done. It is not like, as Mr. Jonas mentioned, it's not some theoretical stuff, South Korea or what, how no matter, some big projects were buried into in European space, so like a metaphorical space. One doesn't know which will be, which fate will Nord Stream 2 have. Yeah, will it cost 13 billion euro, not 45 but 13, but which way? And South Korea is done for now, and it's working. That's why we are speaking about it. That's why it's one of the key elements of new European gas infrastructure, alongside with LNG, alongside with some other pipes to be constructed or constructed. That's why we are talking about it right now. Yeah, thanks.
So thank you, Mr. Karvatskyy, for your perspective. I think, no. Mr. Canaltay, can you add something to that?
Yeah, sure. While listening, professors, colleagues, and experts, they are mentioning good points. And one of the summarizing topic or theme, I believe, will be the competitive power. When you ask the question, you say why it's good. The answer is competitive power. If your competitive power for this project or any other, economically, energy, in terms of energy, like supply, demand, and all this, beyond the politics, taking out the politics from the equation, if it's competitive enough, then the answer is there. Yeah, it is better from others. Looking at all those figures you put, $40 billion project, what it gives, 25 years of supply, etc. And you compare this with other projects, you say this one is better. This is the technical perspective. But when you add politics and other issues, geopolitics into the equation, then the question gets to other places. So in short, I could say, if it's going to be a better project from the others, we need to look at its competitive power and what it gives to Europe, to Turkey, to Ukraine, and to other countries.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for this fruitful and great conversation that we had today. I think Aftermath, we can watch it on our page on Facebook and see the highlights from it on our other social media accounts. Thank you so much for participation, and thanks to all the viewers for being with us. I'll remind you the presence of our speakers today. Today we hosted the director of the Energy and Climate Program of Elcano Royal Institute in Spain, Mr. Gonzalo Escribano. Thanks for being with us. Energy advisor at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Mr. Canercan. Thanks for being with us. The deputy director at Eurasian Research Institute in Kazakhstan, Mr. Cengizhan Canaltay. Thanks for being with us. And CEO of ADASTRA think tank, Ukraine, Mr. Viktor Karvatskyy. Follow and subscribe to our pages in social media. You can find them on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and other social media outlets. So today we talked about the importance of Southern Gas Corridor project, and we hope that you liked the conversation. My name is Artur Koldemesev. I'm a senior fellow of ADASTRA think tank, and I was really glad to moderate this conversation. Thanks, and have a nice day.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you all.